Good evening, and welcome to the mayoral portion of the 2023 Cedar Falls Municipal Debate, sponsored by Northern Iowa Student Government in partnership with Women of Action, Cedar Valley Activate, and the Cedar Falls Waterloo branch of the American Association of University Women. I'd like to once again thank our moderators, Jamie Rimfo and Andy Malone, for being here tonight. I'd like to thank the City of Cedar Falls for allowing us to use the City Hall chamber and the Cedar Falls Utility for broadcasting this debate live. For the mayoral candidates here tonight, we have Walter Burtis and Danny Laudick. As a reminder, we will have 2 minutes for opening remarks, 60 seconds for initial response to the questions, 30 seconds for rebuttal, and 1 minute for closing statements. Thank you.
Well, good evening, folks. My name is Walter Burtis, and I'm running for mayor. And I would first like to thank everybody that helped put on this event, as well as the City of Cedar Falls for allowing us to use this wonderful area for this debate. Thank you to all the candidates that came out as well, and everybody that took time out of their busy evening to come listen. To tell you a little bit about myself, my family moved here in 2000 to the Cedar Valley. Both my father and my mother taught at the University of Northern Iowa. And, ever since that point of being on campus for the very first time, I've been in love with this community. It's a vibrant community, and it's something that we should cherish. I would say that specifically for me, I'm a small business owner in downtown on Main Street. I had to do something to, match the lifestyle as well as justify this stomach. So, I do good food with the Brass Tap. We have many different options. I'm in business with my brother. We've had the opportunity of being in business in downtown since December 4th of 2017. I've seen our downtown grow over the years, and it's been exciting. I would say that we have many areas of opportunity in the city that we need to capitalize on. I think that we have to do a better job in listening to our residents, as well as finding ways to make the city more efficient. And there's many ways to do that, but for me, it starts at the foundation. Being able to get through with city council as well as city staff to get us on the same page, and being able to push forward a positive agenda that's going to be the benefit of all.
And again, second to thank you for everyone putting everything together today, Northern Iowa Student Government for hosting, and then Jamie and Andy for being our wonderful questionnaires. So quick background about myself. I grew up in Cedar Falls. I'm not a native. I was 2 months old when I moved here, so I can't quite claim that status. But grew up here, went to Cedar Falls schools, went to UNI, and then went down to Kansas City for a short time after that, short contract job, but had an opportunity there, but loved Kansas City, but this is the size of community I've always wanted to live in. So came back up here, and in about the last 10 years, I've had a really fortunate opportunity to work in a lot of business community development in the area. So I worked in economic development at Cedar Valley, and a lot of my job is workforce. So looking at how are we attracting people here, keeping people here, a lot of quality about life issues like housing, childcare, and arts and culture, recreation. In about the last 6 to 7 years, a group of us who had started a few businesses, I helped start the Cedar Valley Makers. We have an industrial maker space over in Waterloo. I helped start Mill Race Co-working in downtown Cedar Falls. We realized there wasn't a lot of strong support for new business startups in the area, so we started a new organization called Red Cedar, providing a lot of coaching, mentoring, and support for new business startups across the area. So we've worked a lot with Main Streets, UNI, Small Business Development Center there. So a lot of my work has been in the community. I helped do Cedar Valley Strong back in COVID. So my background in coming to why I wanted to run for mayor was a lot of having grown up here. We used to have really strong leadership that knew how to work together, find consensus, didn't agree on everything. You never do. But you knew how to find the 80% you agree on, move forward with it, and work on the 20% you don't. And so me, the role of mayor is really to be that trusted liaison between staff, city council, and the residents to make sure we're setting a vision that is with residents' input, that works with council to say how do we move these priorities forward, and then works with staff to figure out technically how do we do that, and be that person to work between them to make sure we're making progress on the goals that we have. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, first question. What are your hopes for Cedar Falls' future? How would you describe Cedar Falls 10, 20 years hence? We'll start with you, Walter.
That's a great question. I would say for Cedar Falls, we need to continue focusing on certain areas in the city that need development as well as attention. You know, we have done a great job in transforming our downtown district. We've spent a lot of attention down there. And as a small business owner, I can tell you, I think we've done a great job, but we need to focus on other areas. For me, I would like to continue to see the city of Cedar Falls as a quaint and a beautiful area for your family to be raised in, as well as finding ways to continue to evolve and grow appropriately in any manner that's going to be beneficial for consistent growth, but also putting at the foremost focus, not losing our identity as a beautiful community.
Thank you. Danny?
And thank you for the question. I think for me, it comes down to a lot of the phrase quality of life. It's kind of a buzzword. We use it a lot. But I think here in Cedar Falls, we genuinely do know we have an amazing quality of life. We have a lot of the amenities that you can get in bigger cities. With you and I, we've got the arts and culture, we've got the entertainment, but we still have a lot of those amenities that make us a smaller town. We can meet our neighbors, we can hang out with our neighbors. And that, I think, is why we are one of the best places to raise a family, one of the best, ranked the best place to retire in. So I think that image of Cedar Falls and the quality of life that we want to maintain for our residents is something that we're in an incredibly good place to focus on. But we have that because we had decades and decades of leadership that knew how to work together and create that vision. So I would like to see us focus on continuing to build on that quality of life. And that starts with leadership who understands the vision that we have for ourselves as a community and works together toward making sure we're making progress on that.
Thank you. Waterloo Cedar Falls area was ranked the 6th worst place to be a Black American in a fairly recent analysis by the publication 24/7 Wall Street. Is this a concern of the mayor and council, and what will you do to improve that?
So it is a concern. I helped start the Black Business and Entrepreneur Accelerator in Waterloo, working with 24/7 Black. So I've had a lot of work with the Black community, with the grassroots community, working to address a lot of these issues. Cedar Falls and Waterloo will always have very different cultures. We are different communities, but we are sister cities. We can't take on all the burdens of solving every problem that Waterloo has, and Waterloo can't take on the burden of solving every issue that we have. But we do need to look at ourselves as one community because people looking to move here think of us as one area. We can't divorce ourselves from the overall image that we have as a region. So as mayor, and as the city council and staff, there's not a lot that we can do immediately. A lot of these issues have taken centuries, decades, to become big issues, and it won't just happen overnight to fix them. But we can start driving that conversation now on how are we addressing business startup rates, access to capital. And a lot of these aren't just the city doing it, it's working with partners like the banking systems, looking at housing, but recognizing our role as a partner in our metro and as one piece of that.
Thank you. Walter?
For me, we're looking at how we got on that list and addressing the key factors that put us on that list. And some of those are incarceration levels, income disparity, the home ownership differences. And I think we have to be able to attack that challenge head on. And I would echo what Danny said is, certainly the Cedar Valley collectively is a community that we thrive together. Certainly Cedar Falls has its own image along with Waterloo, but at the same time, we need to be able to work effectively together to solve these problems. And I think it's, having to take a hard look at ourselves and being able to have hard conversations about this important topic. It is something that we need to address, and we need to be proactive and not wait for, long time to pass in order to be able to solve this problem.
We work together pretty well on some things. Cedar Falls has a lot of volunteerism in some areas, the Sturgis Falls Festival, the downtown district. But there are some things like the College Hill Arts Festival that have disappeared in part due to the lack of volunteers. How would you inspire and renew volunteerism in Cedar Falls?
Well, I tell you what, Community Main Street does a great job, and I got to give a shout out to Kim for doing such a phenomenal job and being able to rally downtown businesses as well as volunteers. I think we need to find ways to strengthen the volunteer base, and in doing so, we need to be able to provide attention not only on the downtown district, and that may come off as weird, especially as a business owner in downtown. I think it's extremely important that we provide appropriate focus in different areas, and when we're talking about the College Hill area, I think it's important that we focus on what Community Main Street has done in order to be so effective and try to implement those successes in the College Hill area.
And I think a big part of it comes down to our culture as a society, as a community of, during my kickoff speech for the campaign, I made sure to mention this specifically, that to me, the role of mayor, it's one person. You know, the community is not successful because one person does amazing things and all of a sudden everything's going great. Communities are great places to live because people run businesses, they organize events, they volunteer for things, they help out their neighbor when they need it. So big part of me, the mayor, is it is just a job, but we put a lot of weight on that title of the mayor, and there is a representation there that comes with you are the visualization and the voice of the entire community. Making sure to really embody, we need to be volunteering, we need to be serving our community, helping our neighbors. So to me, something I would like to bring not just to the mayor, but the council is encouraging us to be in the community, volunteering for events, being those leaders by example, that we are going to the events. We had some of our campaign group volunteer for the street party in downtown. So really just embodying, we as leaders need to be in our community, working with residents, living the same issues that they live, and being sure that we're a representation for what we would hope to see.
Thank you.
Speaking of volunteers, all the members of the commissions and boards are volunteers. What would be your process for appointing different commission and board members?
The current process, I think, works fairly well. It is pretty weighty. We put a lot on asking our council members to really help vet people. It's a pretty ingrained process. I do think there is some in the process that can turn some people away from applying because it's a really weighty application up front. So I'd like to see us have some way that we can engage better with residents even before that application process, so we're getting more people, not just kind of the same people who are highly involved, and not just in our boards and commissions, just involvement in the community as a whole, in city leadership, in our visioning processes. How do we get the average public person to want to get involved? Because we're all busy, especially young families. You know, you've got your kids running around, you've got family, you've got work. To make things desirable for them to be able to get involved means being accountable to what time of day works for them. So I'd like to see us be a little more proactive about how do we engage with residents, not just once they've applied, but also encouraging people to apply on the front end.
Thank you. Walter?
With the various boards and commissions, I think it's very important that given which board or commission we're referring to, that we try to find individuals that are well suited for those boards, whether it's based on their experience or going out as a community leader and speaking with different residents to try to find the individuals that are going to provide the most impact and benefit for our community and for those specific groups. I think there are many different ways that we can try to do that, whether through a simple conversation of us doing our job and going out and speaking with our fellow residents, but also speaking with different business owners or different community groups within our area to see who's rising to the top, who's willing to take on the challenge to be able to be a benefit for our community.
One of our city's commissions, the Human Rights Commission, has experienced let's call it fragmented journey over the past few years. What role should the Human Rights Commission play as an official city commission, and what issues should this commission be addressing?
You know, it's an important role, and I think it's something that we need to strengthen. I think if we want to be able to face and deal with some of the challenges that our community is facing, not only being on the list of the top 10 worst places for Black Americans to live, I think they have a lot of challenges ahead. And I think as a city council, as well as a mayor, and for city staff, we need to do everything we can to try to address the many concerns that they're going to be facing and try to provide the appropriate support necessary to address those conversations and to be able to tackle the hard challenges that they're facing. I would say there's, several areas that I would love to be able to see progress on, one of that being the list that I mentioned before, but that's not the only thing. And so I really look forward to the opportunity or the possibility of being able to work with them and solving those issues.
Thank you.
And following on some of that, we are asking that group to take on a lot of heavy issues. Like, these are very difficult conversations. They're not easy to have. And to ask just that group alone as a standalone commission without the support of the city, staff, council, and the community to do that work is a lot to ask of any group. So I think that might be part of why we see some of that burnout in the group and the changeover in leadership. But I think also we have an obligation as a staff, as a city and council, to help give clear direction on why does this group exist, what are the goals and priorities, what are we asking you to accomplish? Because it's hard to ask somebody for their time, but then to give them vague direction on, well, we want your time, but we want you to figure out what it is. But then when you come back with an idea, it maybe gets turned down. So we need to really come together and figure out what is our objective as a community, as city especially, as staff, to figure out what are we asking this group to do. But then we really need to give the weight and support to that group to be able to execute, looking at, do they need a bigger budget? Do they need just more support from council and direction? But we need to make sure that's part of our overall goals, not just a standalone group that we've tasked with some big issues.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of people involved when it comes to city government. Recent history reveals to some that there's been a certain disjointedness when it comes to the workings or the relationships between city council, mayor, city staff. As mayor, what would you do to improve those relationships going forward if elected?
So I'd say it goes back 6 months. Since I was looking to run, I've made sure to make time to meet with all of our current staff, council members, department heads, made sure to meet with all the council members looking to run, because to me, a lot of it comes down to relationships. It comes down to trust. There's an old saying that business moves at the speed of trust. And if you don't trust the people you're working with, if you don't have a good relationship there, if you're not able to give them the benefit of the doubt in a situation where you're unsure about their reasoning for something, it's really hard to move forward and make progress. So to me, it starts with the mayor, I think, has an obligation to work with everyone. You don't get to pick sides. You don't get to have people you talk to and people you don't talk to. It is your job to work with the entire staff, the entire council members, and the entire community, even if you don't agree with some people. So I think really setting that tone of, we won't agree on everything, but we will listen, we will find consensus, we'll work on the things we don't agree on, but it comes down to building those relationships. Now, Councilmember Ganfield is working on doing some of that work with bringing together the council members for some team building. I think really focusing on that and getting the relationships right first with the new incoming council will be a really important piece.
For me, it really starts with the mayor position and being able to help provide the bridge between city staff and the city council. One of the things that I've been noticing for several years is there seems to be a true disconnect between what city council is looking for or the direction that they're trying to go to and what the city staff is either presenting or being told to do. I think it's important that we be able to provide a clear-cut and concise direction so that we can alleviate many of the unnecessary woes that we're currently facing, where there is a lot of, whether it's he said, she said, or misunderstanding of what's going on. I think we have to be able to hold ourselves accountable as elected officials, but also the city staff. I think we have to have metrics in place to be able to achieve that, and it starts with creating an appropriate foundation and building upon that.
Thank you. So how do you feel about strategic planning? Do you think that that would help in that process? And do you think that it could or would be different from the current goal setting that we do?
Well, I think both are important facets, and both need to be addressed. I was briefly reading over some of my notes before I got on here about the goal-setting agenda that's going to be coming forward. I think, as a community, we lack a long-term vision. In going around and door knocking, I'm hearing, several voices of what are we attempting to do? What is our long-term project? What are we trying to provide and, put our efforts toward in the long term? And I think it comes down to not only strategizing appropriately, but giving the direction to our professional city staff to be able to provide us with the best possible opportunities as we look to, move forward and set an agenda. But both are very important, and I think both deserve equal attention and focus.
And getting an old saying that if you don't know where you're going, you can end up anywhere. Strategic planning has to be the foundation of everything we're doing. Looking at where we're at with our strategic planning, our last comprehensive plan, which is our overall structural document for how the city moves forward with certain projects and initiatives and makes priorities, was last updated in 2012. It's been minor updates since then, but it was last done in 2012. And since then, we've had a lot of leadership changeover, COVID, so we just haven't had a chance to get back to that. Our last parks plan was updated in 1996. We've got a lot of plans that haven't been updated, and also we're at a point where we're being, I know some other council members or candidates were saying reactionary. So I think first it starts though with, we need to make sure residents' vision is clear. And I think it's been a long time since we've really engaged with residents to ask, what is the vision that we have for Cedar Falls, we collectively, over the next 20 years? Do that visioning, engage everybody in that process, get the input, and use that vision and that focus to help us rebuild the comprehensive plan, re-engage that with the council, with staff, and then we can start building our 5-year capital improvement plan priorities based on that strategic plan.
Switching gears, parking is often a hot topic when it comes to downtown. How do you view that situation? Do you think there's a problem? What sort of actions do you think should be taken?
Mm-hmm. And I always, whether it's perception's reality, and we do have a parking problem. It's convoluted, the amount of parking, the different types of parking that we have. We've had a lot of growth in downtown, which is incredibly exciting. We've had some amazing new developments. We've had some great new residential areas going in. But if I think our goal is to continue building on downtown and growing with more residents, more businesses, the Whitewater course will be going in soon, which hopefully will have people coming and spending their weekends in downtown. We need a plan in place that allows us to accommodate for that. Parking ramps been studied multiple times and discussed. I think if the plan is to continue growing downtown, we're likely going to need a parking ramp because we are constrained on space. But that needs to be part of an intentional plan to say, how do we focus on parking? How do we simplify the current process? And how do we make sure we're not limiting ourselves for growth in our downtown and that district based on parking as a major issue? Because a ramp allows us to also reduce some parking requirements on new developments if they lease from the ramp. So it really just helps us maximize the use of our space downtown. But that needs to be an intentional process we're taking on now.
I'll be honest with you. I've been waiting for this question. As a downtown business owner, I can tell you first and foremost, this discussion has been going on well over a decade, okay? And the fact that we haven't even provided a long-term plan is very concerning. The fact that we have a 15-minute, 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour free parking, different zones, as well as you can't park on the same block, even if you move your vehicle. I mean, shoot, in a day, I moved my vehicle 3 times in front of my business, and I got a boot on it. And when I attempted to come to city staff and use the HD cameras that the police use if there is a traffic accident outside of my business or if there's something else going on, I wasn't able to use that as an appropriate evidence for showing that I had moved. I think we need to simplify parking, and I think we need to address the longstanding issue of a parking garage, and that comes with a multi-use commercial parking garage to be able to help facilitate the payment of that.
Okay, final remarks. We'll start with you, Danny.
So again, thank you for everyone for coming out. It is almost 8:15, so thank you everyone for making the time to be engaged in the community. Thank you guys for hosting. I think my biggest comment is, to me, the role of mayor is a responsibility to work with residents. I've had a lot of people ask, what's my vision for Cedar Falls? And to me, it's not supposed to be my vision. The role of mayor to me is a responsibility to work with residents to figure out what is our vision collectively, to then be the trusted liaison with staff and council to say, here's what we hear from the residents, how do we work with council to set a vision and direction, and then to be that liaison with staff to say, okay, what are we doing, what are we working on, and make sure you're bringing that back to council to hear their concerns so that we're continuing to move projects forward, because that's what residents expect. I know John Cruz, I'm sure many of you remember him, not everyone liked his leadership style, but I think everyone appreciated the fact that he was in the community, he was listening to people, he showed up to all the events, he went to everything, and that is the type of leadership I hope to embody, is being in the community, being resident-focused, and making sure that the role of mayor isn't just that liaison, it's being in the community with residents.
Well, first I'd like to say, again, thank you for everybody that helped put this on. Thank you for the residents that came out and listened to all of the different candidates. I would say for myself to, kind of piggyback on what Danny said, is the role of a mayor is to be able to go out and find common ground and be able to move us forward. We have to be able to be willing to have hard conversations. We have to be willing to find compromise as well as hold ourselves accountable. My goal is to set the appropriate foundation when elected to be able to transition the image that we currently have, not only on city council, but with our city staff. I think we need to really focus on achieving our motto, which we're falling well short of. And for me, if elected, my intent is to be able to focus on those difficult issues and provide a foundation for us to grow and prosper in for, future generations to come. So I appreciate your time, and don't forget to vote November 7th.
And that concludes the 2023 Cedar Falls Municipal Debate, sponsored by Northern Iowa Student Government in partnership with Women of Action, Cedar Valley Activate, the Cedar Falls Waterloo branch of American Association of University Women. And as I've been saying all night, because I truly do mean it, I would like to thank our moderators, Jamie Winfro and Andy Malone, for being here tonight. And then our city government for providing us the city chambers. And then the Cedar Falls Utilities for providing the live stream. So remember to vote on November 7th, and thank you for being here.